So then guys, when is the next generation of the MacBook Air on its way? When are we going to get our hands on it? Well, today I want to go over all the details for it. And also, I want to tell you even more details of any upgrades or changes we are most likely going to see with it, too. But just quickly, let's talk about where we are currently with the current MacBook Air. Well, it was back in March time when we got an update to it. This is when we got the M5 introduced to both the 13 and the 15 inches MacBook Air. Nothing else really changed in its actual design-wise, but under the hood, what we did see is we did actually get an increase in storage to 512 gigabytes of storage. And this puts up the price by about $100 or so for either configuration if you pick the 13 or 15 inches. Most people were okay with this to swallow this cause obviously it's an upgrade from 256 gigabytes. But what I will say is quite recently in the last sort of months that Apple have just had to do a blanket upgrade of prices across most of their products. And unfortunately the MacBook was also affected. The MacBook Air 13 and 15 inches models, they have both gone up by around about $200, $300 now. And yeah, it's a bit more expensive than it really was before. But the annoying thing is it's all down to these AI data centers that are constantly taking all the RAM and also the NAND storage for themselves. Obviously there's only certain amount of manufacturers in the world that actually make these kind of chips, and obviously that's shared out across the whole IT industry, not just Apple, not just AI data centers. It's for everyone. So no matter if you go, well that's it, Apple are costing so much now, I'm going off to Samsung. Well unfortunately Samsung are more expensive too. I'm going off to HP are more expensive. Same with Dell, same with Lenovo, same with everybody. They have all gone up in price unfortunately across the board. So, there's nothing unfortunately we can do about this. But towards the next generation of the MacBook Air, what kind of upgrades are we most likely going to see? Well, I'm going to say at this stage, if you're looking forward to say having an OLED MacBook Air coming out next year, unfortunately, it will not be that time. Also, if you're looking forward to say a mini LED version of the MacBook Air with maybe 120 Hz, well, that's also still not on the cards to come out with the M6 version. Most likely, the new OLED version probably will not come out till about 2030. And at the time of making this video, we do not even have an OLED MacBook Pro yet. And then also saying a ProMotion, version of this with just a mini LED display. We're on target for 2028. So yeah, it's going to be at least another generation or two before we actually get to that stage when we're going to have an updated screen at least on that. But overall for the actual whole design of the MacBook Air, it doesn't look like anything else is going to change. So it's just going to be literally a swap out of the chip. And we've been told that the next generation chip obviously is going to be the M6 going inside the Air. Now, what I'm going to say with the M6 is that more than likely, we've been told that the configuration is going to be very similar to what we have right now with possibly one exception. What we're probably going to get again is probably going to get the likes of say about 6 efficiency cores, and we're going to get 4 super cores again. And then obviously if there is the baseline version, you might lose one of those super cores potentially there obviously on the 512 gigabytes version of the 13 inches. But really, it's going to be a very similar configuration on the CPU kind of way of thinking. But obviously, the efficiency and the speed will be better than what we have right now with M5, just like it was on M4. Probably overall in performance for CPU, we're probably going to be looking anywhere between 15 to 20% in single-core and multi-core performance increase for both there. But the other difference we're going to potentially see is all to do with the GPU. Now, the GPU, what we've been told is potentially this could be the first time the actual cores could be upped for the first time ever since the likes of the M2. Don't forget when we actually had the M1, we actually had an 8-core GPU, but when we got to M2, that's when we got to a 10-core GPU and it's been the same ever since. We've never actually had an increase whatsoever. So, there is the potential this could go up to 12 cores with the GPU on the next generation. But at the same time as well, Apple could just release a new kind of AI ability to go along with those GPU cores like they did with M5, and this could be like the second generation. So those cores might not need to have the increase there to actually get that better performance. But that is something that is possibly on its way. This means that when you are editing video or processing high-resolution imagery on the fly, the machine will not feel bogged down by complex calculations. Instead, it will leverage these specialized neural pathways to ensure that your workflow remains smooth and uninterrupted throughout the day. It is an evolutionary step that highlights exactly where consumer technology is moving, balancing pure raw processing power with highly intelligent software-driven resource allocation. But first, guys, I just want to tell you about the 2 giveaways we're doing on this channel. The first giveaway is for the new members section, and that is if you are a member right now, you are automatically entered into the giveaway for this iPhone 17 Pro Maximum. What I'm going to be giving away when we get to now 1,000 members. I've actually reduced the number now. It's going to be 1,000 members. You're automatically entered into that. So, that's really, really cool. We're going to be giving that away. But the other giveaway we have is for this right here. It is for a MacBook Air M4 here. It's the 15-inch version. And what we have inside of this is 512 gigabytes of storage. And we've also got 24 gigabytes of RAM. And I'm giving this away to one lucky person on this channel. And all you have to do to enter into this, anyone can enter in, is to make sure that what you do is to put down in the comments below of what technology gear you're hoping to still get in 2026. It could be an iPhone, could be a MacBook, it could be nothing to do with Apple whatsoever. It could be a Nintendo Switch 2, it could be a PS5, whatever it is, put it down into the comments below. But the other thing I'd make sure you do right now is also become a subscriber and also get your friends and family to be a subscriber too, because we're giving this away when we get to 850,000 subscribers. 850,000, so the quicker we get there, the quicker I can give this away. So make sure you share this video with your friends, family, and friends to do that, and also become a subscriber, because the sooner we get there, the better. The other reason why you want to be a subscriber, too, is because I'll be making a video on this channel when we get to that marker, giving you more details about the giveaway, including details of a form to fill into. So, make sure that you definitely have done that, because you don't want to miss out on that video whatsoever. And hit that notification bell, because obviously, yeah, you really don't want to miss out on that. But the last thing I just want to quickly say to you guys, that sadly there are still lots of scammers and spammers out there. People still impersonating me, telling you to WhatsApp, Telegram, Instagram direct message. Please do ignore these people better right here. Please do report them. Moving on from this, what about the release date and price for the MacBook Air? Well, let's start out with the price first of all. And then the way how things are standing right now, it's not looking good in that AI kind of world with the prices being increasing. So I don't think the next generation of the MacBook Air is going to be any cheaper. I think in fact it'll probably stay exactly the same price. It could potentially even go up more if things don't get any better anytime soon. Let's just take the scenario in right now. And if it is that, it's probably going to start at $1,299 for the 13 inches model. And sadly, that does also mean that the 15 inches would also still start at $1,499. So again, that would still be a 16 gigabytes version. That would be 512 gigabytes of storage. But yeah, that's just the way it is at the moment, unfortunately. But then the next question is going to be release time. Well, we've been hearing that the release date is probably still going to be on course for the same time it has been for the last couple of years. So, we're talking sort of springtime. So, this is probably going to be the most likely situation. So, we're probably going to see the next generation M6 MacBook Air coming out in spring. So, this is probably going to be around kind of early March time. Or to sort of end of March time we could actually get the update. This has happened with the last 2 generations. So more than likely this is probably going to happen exactly the same, especially if Apple are going to use the same kind of RAM and the same kind of storage, and it's just the actual main M6 chip being updated. There's no big changes what other things being sorted here. So yeah, it makes sense to Apple to release it around that time. When we consider the broader impact of this constant component crunch, it becomes clear that every tech company is navigating an entirely new marketplace landscape. For years, we took for granted that technology would continually drop in price while increasing in baseline specifications. We expected that a baseline laptop would always sit comfortably below the $1,000 mark without compromising on basic needs. However, the modern reality of semiconductor fabrication means that manufacturing space is at an absolute premium. Companies that build these massive neural processing clusters for deep learning models have nearly infinite capital compared to individual consumers buying laptops, which shifts production priorities completely. When factories can sell high-margin enterprise computing cards by the thousands to massive server farms, the production of standard flash memory modules and low-voltage system-on-chip components for consumer notebooks naturally takes a back seat. This reallocation of global chip-making capacity trickles down directly to the retail market, creating an environment where a consumer has to pay significantly more just to retain standard, uncompromised features. This dynamic also explains why Apple is being exceptionally cautious with their industrial design updates on the upcoming M6 models. Designing an entirely new unibody chassis requires extensive retooling of manufacturing lines, new quality assurance testing pipelines, and millions of dollars in upfront structural engineering costs. In an economy where component costs are unpredictable, standardizing the external hardware for multiple generations is the most reliable way for a manufacturer to mitigate corporate financial risks. By keeping the precise aluminum shell that debuted previously, Apple can optimize their manufacturing efficiency to a massive degree. They can use the exact same internal structural layouts, the exact same keyboard assemblies, the exact same hinge mechanisms, and the exact same display brackets. This level of physical consistency means that almost every dollar saved on structural engineering can be refocused directly into refining the silicon itself, which is where the real competition is currently happening in the industry. Furthermore, looking deeply at the performance metrics we expect from the M6 architecture, the shift toward maximizing architectural efficiency is more pronounced than ever. When we look closely at how the operating system handles everyday tasks, the relationship between thermal dissipation and raw chip performance becomes incredibly critical. The MacBook Air operates entirely without an internal fan, meaning it relies completely on passive cooling through its metal enclosure. Because there is no active airflow to draw heat away from the silicon, the processor must be engineered to perform tasks with an absolute minimum of electrical overhead. If a processor draws too much power, it generates excess heat quickly, forcing the system to throttle its performance downward to protect the internal components. This is why the expected configuration of 6 efficiency cores paired with 4 performance cores makes complete structural sense for the future lineup. The efficiency cores handle the background synchronization, the browser tabs, the audio playback, and system notifications without creating any meaningful thermal footprint. Meanwhile, the heavy lifting of video rendering, code compilation, and sustained multitasking is handed off seamlessly to the performance cores only when absolutely required. This balance between core types ensures that the laptop can maintain its signature responsiveness without turning into a portable heater. It also guarantees that the real-world battery life remains exceptional, consistently delivering all-day usage patterns that consumers have grown accustomed to. When you look at competing laptops in the Windows ecosystem, many of them are forced to rely on bulky cooling fans that spin up loudly during routine tasks, like jumping onto a video conference call or processing a spreadsheet. Apple's architecture avoids this entire problem by designing the hardware and software concurrently, allowing macOS to know exactly how to schedule tasks across specific silicon pathways with microscopic precision. The M6 generation represents a further tightening of this integration, ensuring that single-core bursts feel instantaneous while multi-core sustained loads do not cause severe thermal drop-offs over extended work sessions. Turning our attention to the potential graphics hardware improvements, an increase to a 12-core GPU configuration would mark a significant shift for professional users who lean heavily on the Air's portability. For a long time, the MacBook Air was viewed purely as a machine for students, writers, and general business professionals who did not require intensive graphical processing power. However, as mobile creative applications have grown vastly more powerful, an increasing number of content creators, independent designers, and amateur filmmakers are using the Air as their primary on-the-go editing station. Moving the baseline graphical cluster up would provide a very noticeable uplift in real-time timeline scrubbing, complex vector rendering, and complex 3D modeling previews. It would mean that complex shading operations and layered visual effects can be previewed without waiting for pre-renders to complete, keeping the creative momentum moving forward smoothly. At the same time, if Apple decides to keep the physical graphics core count identical to the current generation, the performance leap will rely almost entirely on architectural intelligence and machine learning optimization. Modern graphics rendering relies less on brute force hardware clusters and far more on smart upscale techniques, frame generation, and intelligent ray tracing acceleration. By embedding dedicated hardware logic right into the GPU matrix, the chip can predict and render visual elements much faster while drawing significantly less power from the internal battery cell. This software-hardware synergy has already proven successful in contemporary desktop architectures, and scaling it down into a highly efficient, fanless laptop design is the logical next phase for consumer silicon development. Whether we see more physical silicon area dedicated to graphics or a massive optimization of the existing layout, the end user will experience a machine that handles demanding visual workloads with far more poise than its predecessors. This brings us to the broader conversation regarding display technology and why we are seeing such a conservative timeline for screen upgrades on the Air line. It is easy to look at the market and wonder why premium technologies like high refresh rate ProMotion or deep contrast OLED panels are taking so long to migrate down to the entry-level notebooks. The reality of display manufacturing is incredibly complex and deeply tied to panel yield rates and supply chain logistics. Producing a high-resolution, bright mini-LED or OLED panel that meets strict color accuracy guidelines is an incredibly expensive process. Currently, the production capacity for these advanced displays is almost completely consumed by high-end smartphones, premium tablet lines, and top-tier professional workstations. Trying to scale that same technology down to a massive volume consumer product like the MacBook Air would instantly cause severe inventory shortages and drive the manufacturing costs to an unsustainable level. By keeping the standard liquid retina display on the upcoming M6 models, Apple ensures that they can maintain steady, predictable production lines that meet global demand without causing massive delays at launch. The current display is already remarkably bright, highly color accurate, and fully supportive of the wide color gamut, making it more than sufficient for the vast majority of consumer tasks. Pushing advanced screen tech out toward the late 2020s or 2030 allows the global manufacturing ecosystem to mature, bringing the cost of panel production down to a level where it can be integrated into consumer-tier devices without causing another massive retail price spike. It requires patience from the consumer side, but from an operational perspective, it ensures that the product remains highly reliable and readily available on store shelves when the spring launch window arrives. When we consider the financial aspects of purchasing technology in this current landscape, the strategy of maintaining existing pricing models becomes quite significant. Consumers have faced widespread price increases across nearly every sector of consumer goods, and technology is certainly no exception. The baseline pricing structures of $1,299 for the smaller variant and $1,499 for the larger variant represent a substantial investment for any buyer. However, by keeping these prices locked rather than introducing further incremental increases, the platform remains highly competitive against premium Windows alternatives. When you look at the total cost of ownership, a machine that retains its performance capabilities for 5 or 6 years without slowing down offers immense value, even if the initial entry price feels steep compared to the budget options available in the wider market. The market has shifted away from the era of frequent, drastic price drops, meaning that consumers must adjust their expectations when budgeting for long-term tech upgrades. It underscores the importance of choosing configurations that will remain viable for several years rather than simply opting for the absolute lowest entry point. This is precisely why the standard inclusion of higher unified memory allocations and spacious storage tiers across the modern lineup is so vital. It prevents the machine from becoming obsolete after just a couple of operating system updates, ensuring that your initial investment continues to pay dividends in productivity and reliability for a very long time to come. As we look toward the scheduled spring rollout, the timing aligns perfectly with the predictable operational cadences that define modern product releases. A springtime launch allows the company to capture the attention of creative professionals planning their summer projects, students preparing for upcoming academic transitions, and corporate buyers restructuring their hardware portfolios for the fiscal year. This strategic timing ensures maximum visibility in the media landscape, avoiding the crowded autumn release cycles that are traditionally dominated by major smartphone announcements and home entertainment product rollouts. It gives the product line its own dedicated moment in the spotlight, allowing reviewers and consumers alike to focus entirely on the nuances of the new silicon improvements without distraction. This seasonal consistency also helps retail partners manage their inventory levels effectively, ensuring that older stock can be phased out smoothly through promotional periods leading up to the announcement. For the consumer, it provides a predictable template for upgrading, allowing you to plan your hardware cycles with confidence because you know exactly when the next major iterative step is going to occur. It eliminates the guesswork that often plagues technology purchases, giving you a clear window to evaluate whether you should purchase a current machine during a holiday sale or wait a few additional months for the next iteration of the internal architecture. When you weigh all of these factors together, the upcoming generation represents a highly calculated, deeply intentional refinement of a laptop formula that has already proven to be incredibly successful. It demonstrates that the future of personal computing is no longer about radical, flashy design overhauls every single year. Instead, it is about steady, methodical optimization under the hood, ensuring that the machine becomes increasingly capable, highly intelligent, and remarkably efficient at handling the actual tasks that users perform every single day. The focus has shifted entirely to internal excellence, maximizing the capabilities of the architecture to ensure that every ounce of power is used to its absolute fullest potential. So really guys, that is the latest and greatest we have on the MacBook Air M6. It is a fascinating look at where consumer technology is heading, balancing the realities of a challenging global manufacturing landscape with the relentless march of internal processing innovation. The upcoming transition highlights just how mature the silicon platform has become, turning these incredibly thin, highly portable enclosures into true powerhouse machines that blur the line between casual consumer tech and professional-grade hardware. Are you excited for it? Are you going to get one when it does come out in the spring? Or are you planning to hold on to your current machine for a few more cycles to see how the display technology evolves down the road? Well, if you are looking to upgrade, let me know in the comments below, and if you're not, well, also let me know in the comments below. I always love reading through your perspectives and seeing what kind of hardware strategies you are all planning for your personal setups. But on that note, as well guys, it's time to wrap up the video, too. So, if you have enjoyed watching it, please do press the like button. As always, if you want to hear the latest news on Apple things and deep dives into upcoming hardware releases, well, make sure you subscribe to this channel and also hit that notification bell so you are always the first to know when new information drops. Until next time, guys, I will see you really soon. Take care. Bye bye.